Good morning from Lake Wedowee. This is Huey Reynolds, and I'm here to show you a little bit about our summer garden here on the lake. You see our house behind me, and I'll just turn now and give you a glimpse of what our garden looks like. You see the deer netting. That tells you we have a lot of visitors around here, and there would hardly be a garden at all were it not for the deer netting. So it's about 7 feet high. These are started out to be 10-foot posts that I put in that are holding the deer netting up. But here's the garden, and let me turn this around so you can glimpse of kind of what the landscape's like around here. I have raised beds here, and all but one of them is in production currently. I have this one over here where I've yet to pull up the grass and bring in some good woods dirt and farm dirt and compost to get it started. But that's what I've done to the rest of these beds. The beds are made out of material that I salvaged from our remodel. We had a turn around here. We had in where this garage is behind the vehicles. There was simply a side deck. It didn't come out nearly as far as the garage, but we tore that side deck down in order to build the garage. And I took the material. Some of this came from the shrubbery bed, the 6x6s, but all the 2x material, 2x8s, 2x10s, came from that side deck. So here's our squash. I'm growing it vertically. It's doing pretty well. I have had to treat for vine borers in the zucchini, these two mature zucchini plants here. And the vine borers got in those, and they were beginning to suffer. But what I did was try to remove the disease parts, and hopefully found the borers in those. Remove them, threw them away, and then I put more compost, really just good woods dirt, around here, with the idea being that the vines, the healthy vines, will put down roots. What kills plants after vine borers is it cuts off the flow of nutrients to the leaves, to the rest of the plant, and they die. But these are producing mighty well. You may see a bee or two in here. They've done real well pollinating. I haven't had to manually pollinate any of this. So they've done well, and they're staying healthier. The idea with vertical, growing these vertically, is that it lets the air and the sunshine get to a larger part of the plant, and that's working well for us. Got some lilies that Sandy's growing here that I have to keep watered. Otherwise, all these are on, all my raised beds are on this irrigation system. And for 2 hours at sunup, they get some drip irrigation. This is a bed where I did plant some early spring plants. These Brussels sprouts, for instance. Afraid the silkworms are getting the best of those, but look at these Brussels sprouts that are beginning to grow. I've cut back the leaves, so these aren't real healthy plants, but the Brussels sprouts are coming on, so I've left them. I haven't pulled them up yet. And just about everything else you see besides the Swiss chard in here is volunteer that came from the compost bin. A couple stalks of corn, I had some old seed, and I planted those, and I'm not going to get a corn crop out of there, but the corn, those two seeds did germinate and grow. Turnip greens, it's time to pull them up. Time to pull them up. We've had some great turnip greens out of this. Look at this volunteer tomato. It's probably a going to survive, and I may transplant it. Here are tomatoes. We got some Cherokee purples and some Atkinson tomatoes, but over here on this side we have some early girls. We've gotten a lot out of the early girls, several tomatoes. And again, this is somewhat of a volunteer bed too. I've propagated some plants, or transplanted some plants that were growing in that volunteer bed over there, and these are doing quite well. I think they're going to come on along after these tomatoes. There's a couple plants of big boys, but most of these are Cherokee purples. This one is a plant called I think a mortgage breaker. These two tall plants right here. Okay. Here's a bit. We're trying some cantaloupe this year, some lavender, some more. That's these squash plants over here in the. We're growing vertically, or we're volunteer, and they're coming along, and hopefully we'll begin to produce after the. Actually, one's already producing. And the bees are working. I'd love to see that. Here's our okra. We don't have a whole lot of okra, but these are the plants that survived. Looks like I lost two there. And here, some more volunteer in the middle, squash and tomatoes. But these peppers, intentionally planted, and they're producing well. We've got several jalapenos, as you see, that are producing. Some of them ready. These peppers were intentionally grown. They actually turn on the vine. These are red bells. And this one's called a time bomb. Turns red when it's ready to harvest, and I see one ready to harvest. And these are blueberries, our second year for blueberries, really. And got some ready to harvest, but we're growing those. I've just started fertilizing these more regularly with some acidic fertilizer, some acid tone fertilizer, because these are acid loving plants. So that's our garden, and it's producing some for us. We hope we'll have enough to freeze, and we've already begun to do that with our squash and zucchini. And certainly as the tomatoes come on, we'll be freezing some tomatoes or making some soup to enjoy this winter.